Yeah, and thank you all for giving me this opportunity. This is something I was telling my friends. I talk to them about this all the time anyway, right? Because it's, and even for me, right, prior to getting into tech, it just seemed like it was a bubble and no one on the outside knew what was going on the inside. And there weren't enough people. Now, of course, if you go looking, you can find resources online. You can find people talking about it on YouTube, but there weren't enough people that I actually knew who I rubbed shoulders with to give me good insight. And so I had to go searching for that. And so one of my passions since I've made the career transition into tech full time is to go to people I know, my friends, my family, former coworkers, right, colleagues, associates, and just give them insight into what's happening under the tech umbrella, because we are in a powerful time right now in tech as an industry, and it's wide open, meaning the opportunities are abundant, like never seen before, right? So, and they're growing, right? And the supply of competent professionals isn't there, right? So not only is there a supply-demand gap that exists, the gap is getting wider. It's actually growing. This topic was, right up my alley. It was perfect. So thank you guys for having me. I can give you a little bit of background about myself, just a little short introduction. As she said, as Erin said in the intro, I'm from here, from New Orleans, born and raised. Lived here my whole life, save 2.5-ish years post Katrina. Lived in Houston, Texas, as well as East Tennessee. But other than that, I'm a New Orleans Saints fan, die hard, and Pelicans die hard, and you can't tell me nothing about my crawfish and all that. So that's who I am at the core. About maybe 7-ish years ago, I had always had a technical aptitude. I always was interested in tech. I was a tinkerer. Like I was into music heavily. So I sang, wrote songs, and I had a home studio set up. So if my computer burnt out, because the recording software takes a lot of computing power. If my computer burnt out, instead of just going to get another one, right, or shopping for another computer, I was the guy who was like, I'm going to rebuild it myself with the proper specs. And I just did that. I had a natural inclination to those types of things. But I decided to take it seriously about 7-ish years ago and really pursue it as a full-time career, 7 years ago. So I started looking up coding hackathons and tech-focused business case competitions and competing in those things. And that put me kind of in that world where I could meet people that I actually could say I know personally, and kind of peel back the onion a little bit and ask them a lot of questions, be inquisitive and be curious. And that opened up my mind. I was working as a mailman in Metairie, Louisiana, and it was tearing my body down a little bit at a time. And I could see the writing on the wall that was going to be what it was for me if I didn't make a change, right? And I could have done that. I have a lot of older family members who were career postal employees across the country. So I come from sort of a government / military / postal worker family, right? So I could have made that work, but I just felt like that didn't really speak to who I was as a person and my interests and things that I was passionate about. So I decided to get into hackathons and won a couple of them, started making a name for myself a little bit. And that gave me the confidence to really do more research and see how I could break into the field. And through tutoring part-time at one local coding school, I was able to learn about another highly regarded coding boot camp. I attended that one, completed it in early 2018. So it's been not even quite 4.5 years, just a little over 4 years and a couple months now since I made a full-time transition into tech. And I haven't looked back since, and I've never, best decision I ever made in my life. The coding school was the toughest academic thing I've ever done in my life by far. And shout out to all my other Operation Spark staff and students and alumni that are on the call right now. Shout out to you guys, love you guys. But once I got through it, it's been smooth sailing ever since, right? So I'll just like to share my story and then also share the larger opportunities, because once I got in the field, then I saw, oh, there's a lot more than just coding to tech, right? There's a ton of career paths that people have no idea about, right? So we're going to get into that and talk about that today. So I'll go ahead and go on to the first slide and just talk a bit about, the supply demand gap. Every company is a tech company now. To give you an idea, my first job walked right out of Operation Spark graduation into a job with the GE Digital New Orleans Tech Center. GE is a dinosaur of a company. Honestly, it's been around for over 100 years, which you don't see in the modern world. It's industrial. I mean, oil and gas and energy, steam powered plants, and they make jet engines, right? They were one of the first companies listed on the Dow Jones Industrial Average stock exchange back like in 1912 or something like. So this is a dinosaur of a company, but in order to stay relevant and in order to stay the leader in those legacy industries, they had to get serious about tech. That's the same for every company. So it's not just software companies or computer hardware companies that are tech companies. There are legacy companies. I mean, my previous employer before coming to Dutchy, which is the cannabis fintech startup that I'm at now, was JB Hunt Trucking. They've been around for about 65-ish years, and they're in trucking, right? But because things like autonomous vehicles and automated supply chain management systems have infiltrated their industry, in order to compete and keep up, they have to get serious about tech, right? So every company has at least a tech department or tech division. Many companies farm that out to IT consulting firms, such as DXC, which has a strong presence here in New Orleans. I think it's headquartered, national headquarters here in New Orleans now, but there's a ton of them, right? And other companies have their tech departments in-house. So that speaks to the demand, right? That demand is growing. One of the world's leaders in IT consulting, a company called Gartner, they did a study last year where they surveyed companies, some of the largest companies in the world, and asked them what's the main thing stopping them from expanding their technology offerings. And the answer was labor. There's not enough talent in the market. So that speaks to the low supply. So imagine that, right? You have a demand that's increasing, right? Where these companies are saying, we have the money and we have the ideas, but we can't implement these new ideas because we don't have the competent, at very least competent entry-level software talent or hardware talent or tech talent in general to implement these new ideas. So that's an ongoing issue, right? And it's been now for about 15 years and it hasn't crested. It's still going up. So the supply-demand gap is widening. When I say that, I want you guys to hear opportunity, because it's opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. So these companies that have billions of dollars can't implement these new ideas. Imagine that. You got the money, you have the desire, you have the idea, but you can't find the people to implement them, to hire to implement them. So that's a challenge. So in order to close this gap, multiple things have been done. One, getting the word out, right? That's what we're doing here. That's what a program like Operation Spark, like Delgado's Workforce IT program is doing. That's a part of the training. In order to train people, you have to recruit the people to train them. So getting the word out is extremely important, right? And preventing brain drain, right? You have very intelligent people with a ton of potential, but because they've been attracted to other fields and the word hasn't gotten to them, they are going to different states for different opportunities, as well as to different industries, right? Because they know more or they feel more familiar with those industries, right? So in order to fill the supply-demand gap, we have to prevent that brain drain. And we have to foster a new vision, right? Whether it's things like robotic process automation, or things like artificial intelligence, natural language processing that you see like in Alexa and Siri and things like that. You have to approach how do we fill the supply-demand gap with a new vision and foster the new vision and not be stuck in archaic pathways, right? One new vision is these alternative paths besides undergrad and grad degrees as your only way to get into the field, to get at the very least entry-level competent skill sets to actually get your first foot in the door. And so that's what I want to speak to and talk about, particularly in this slide. So let's move on. And as I'm speaking, sometimes I just, go with it. But if you all have any questions, go ahead. And before I move on and keep going and you forget what the question was, go ahead and post them in the chat, and we'll revisit that during the Q&A session. So I've talked to you about the opportunities. I've talked to you about the supply-demand gap and how wide open the field is. I've told you a little bit of my story. So let's talk about perks, right? Why would an enterprising young man, young woman, or somebody who has the world before them and they feel like they can go out and do anything, or someone who's motivated enough to an established person who's motivated enough that they think they want to take a crack at it, why would they go through the trouble or the effort, that heavy lift of training or retraining in order to get into the industry, right? What's on the other side of that? I'm glad you asked. First, there were a few epiphanies, because you hear about these things, right, when you're in the training programs, but when you actually get the job offer and you look around and you talk to your other cohort mates and see what job offers they got and what comes with the industry, it blows your mind, right? Work-life balance. So for instance, I was a mailman. You work a certain amount of pay periods and you earn a set amount of hours of sick leave and annual leave per pay period, right? And that's what it is. You run out of your annual leave, you can try to be slick and use your sick leave, pretend like you're slick, but you're gonna have to bring pretend like you're sick, and you're gonna have to bring a doctor's note to get it excused and all that, right? That's normal, right? That's what we're used to. The work-life balance in tech is bar none. I don't want to gloat, but I spent the month of July in Ghana. I got paid that, and it wasn't an approval process. It's something called they either call it unlimited PTO, and it's truly unlimited, or permissive leave. And this is standard in the tech industry. This is not, oh, I work for Apple, so I get this, or I work for some of the top tech companies in the world. If you're working for a tech company, or you're working for a company in their tech department, in order for them to compete and keep that talent, they have to have compensation packages and just employment packages that compete with what's standard for the industry. And in many cases, virtually unlimited PTO is standard for the industry, right? And so that just speaks to the work-life balance, or they call it permissive leave, where you're already permitted. You just have to make send the word out. You're not requesting, or you're not asking your managers or whoever for time off. You're just making them aware ahead of time that you will be off. And so it's generally permitted by and large. And I can go way beyond that. I got what is it called? So women get the maternity leave. I have paternity leave built in. That's 8 weeks. It's the work-life balance is something that is incredibly encouraged in the industry. It's not like some secret thing that you don't know about until you talk to the right person. It's encouraged, right? High compensation. I'm going to get into the different kind of career path segments and some of the different job titles within those career paths. One thing I want you to remember as I go through all of these is that all of these are high 5-figure entry level / 6-figure entry level, right? All of them, right? And that, once again, is standard for the industry. Now, you find some places where, because the company is based, which is actually going away now, let me finish the thought first. You find some places where, because the company is based in the South or somewhere rural, where the cost of living is low, where, you know, the entry level or the first foot in the door position may offer a lower wage. So think 60, 65, that's low in tech, right? 65 is for entry level, right? Is kind of low in today's world. And that changes fast. That changed fast just from 2017, 2018 when I was breaking it. But that's the reality now. So you find some places, you know, rural Louisiana, some parts of New Orleans, some companies in New Orleans, I should say, Mississippi, Alabama, whatever, where it's like, oh, you don't have any experience, you're fresh out of a boot camp, or you just got a certification. Okay, you interview well and you get a job offer that's like 59 or 60. And you're like, you know, that sounds great to you, but believe me, standard is, you know, low 5 figures, high 6 figures high 5 figures, low 6 figures to start. And I'm not gassing you guys up. This is I'm in it. So I see it every day. And even for us, if you know what I mean, right? Gender, none of those factors change the reality. Gender, race, sexual orientation, none of that changes the reality. That's just what it is in the tech industry. So I've talked about work-life balance, talked about high compensation. Again, job security, right? If you get let go, if you get laid off, it's because the company is closing, right? Like we're the last people to go, right? We are vital to the bottom line of the company, right? Think about that. So you're going to have job security. It's the effects of the supply-demand gap is such that I call it poaching season. When the companies all get their new fiscal year budget, they are looking to poach tech professionals from where they are, because they know there's not enough. So they know chances are they're going to have to pull somebody from another company. So, like, for instance, since I've transitioned, I've never actually proactively applied for a job. I've never had to. Literally, my LinkedIn DMs are blown up by recruiters all day, every day. You know, it's my LinkedIn inbox probably got 5,000 plus messages from random recruiters. And it's every time I go through deleting, I just get tired, because I know the next day is going to fill back up. By the end of the week, it's going to be more than what there was before I started deleting. So you have job security, accelerated career path. You can literally, and it was funny to hear this, and I didn't have context at the time, but the founder of the coding school that I went to, of Operation Spark, he told us, this is the hardest you're going to work in your life. Just upskilling to get entry level ready is the hardest you're going to work in your life. After that, you're going to be able to write your own ticket, like literally write your own career growth path. And when someone tells you that, you don't really understand what that means until you get into that spot. And it's like, oh, where do you see yourself next? And it's not just a question just to get an idea. It's literally because whatever you say you see yourself next, we're going to help you get there, because we need that too, right? Like we want you to grow into whatever your career path growth, whatever you define it as. So whether that's going into architecture, whether it's going into people management, whether it's going into, you know, whatever, you design your own career path growth, and it is accelerated because the need is so strong. Also, the remote work was already a thing in tech, but the pandemic pretty much spread it to companies that were less comfortable with it, having to realize that, you know, they're going to have to do that. And it's honestly not going anywhere. I haven't been in an office since February 2020, and you can't pay me enough to go full-time back to an office. I don't care if it's Apple, I don't care who you are. I'm not coming back into your office full-time. And that's standard par for the course, right? Yeah, so full-time remote, permanent remote, hybrid at worst, where you're in maybe 2-3 times a week, is par for the course in tech, because everything can be done on a laptop, right? Or within the company's framework that they have set up. Travel is included, right? It's paid for, it's covered. And now that we're out of the pandemic, travel is travel opportunities, whether it's conferences or whether it's just team building opportunities, is a part of it, right? And paid trainings and continued educations. One of the things about this field is that it's a practice. So much like medical professionals and attorneys, they have continuing education hours that they have to get every year in order to stay properly licensed. Tech doesn't necessarily have that. Well, some fields within tech has that, but it's a tacit understanding. It's just, it comes with the territory of the field. But the benefit is the companies you work for, they pay for it all. If I want to go back to school, they're going to pay for it all. If I want to go do some training, they're going to pay for it all. Everything is paid. And it's encouraged. Again, it's not like some secret where you got to go dig deep and say, oh, I found in the employee handbook, if I fill out this form and then I do this and jump through this hoop, you guys will reimburse. No, it's encouraged, right? It's just, it comes with the territory. And so those are some of the main perks of the industry that separates it from a lot of other, industries in the economy today. And so that's just something that I like to point out. So let's move on to the next and let's get into the actual, this is not an exhaustive list, but like I said, I give this talk all the time to friends and family and people, schools and things like that. So these are just some of the standouts, but the umbrella is large, but these are some of the standouts. So let's get into, I told you walk you through some of the actual career segments, so to speak, right? Yeah, so let's do that, right? I segmented it this way for kind of ease of, I guess, my understanding and presenting, but there's some that, you could move around and say, oh, this goes here actually. But so I segmented IT-focused career paths. So IT, of course, is, like your internet technology, right? Information technology, internet technology is interchangeable. IT-focused career paths are your help desk technicians and things of that nature. If you've ever been locked out of your computer at school, or you forgot your password, or you clicked on something and a window popped up and said you're not allowed to go to this website or whatever. And you have to call the help desk, like, hey, I need my password reset, or I'm afraid that I may have actually accidentally clicked on something that I wasn't supposed to because a pop-up that I never seen before came up, right? Those tend to be your IT help desk technicians that handle these things, right? So whether it's your network technicians or network administrators who are in charge of the network, whether it's actually wiring and setting up your intranet or internet network. I'm gonna assume you guys know what that is, but if you don't, the internet is public and the intranet is internal, right? Internal to that entity, right? So Delgado probably has an intranet system set up that's, it can't be accessed from the public, but they have to log into the Delgado system. So that network, from the wiring, the servers, all of that hardware setup, and then all the configuration, right? All the things that need to be, the variables that need to be set up on the actual servers themselves to allow certain gateways and pathways and network gateways, right? Literally, like the network gateway, and the design of it. That's done by your network technicians, and it's probably overseen or designed from the top down by a network or a group of network administrators. So that's a career path in and of itself, right? And my younger brother actually does that. And actually, he's transitioning now from network administrator into cybersecurity because there's more money, and that's the ticket he wrote for himself. As I said, accelerated career path growth, and you pretty much pick whatever direction you want to go. And yes, the company he works for paid for all of his training, paid for all of his certification exam testing that he had to study for and then take and pass. Yeah, that's what network technicians and administrators do. database administrators and database technicians, right? So if you have data, which all companies do, right? Whether it's a school, a church, a nonprofit, a coding boot camp, or even an individual, right? Think about all your data that you have on your own personal laptop, right? Your financial data, your whatever documents you share, that's your data. So we all have a database, so to speak. But companies hire database technicians, database administrators to manage that data, to build and design the structure of that data, how it's designed. A friend of mine, he's actually sitting right here. He's a database administrator for Walmart in Northwest Arkansas. He's visiting here in New Orleans, but so and they pay him a handsome amount. So you know, that's a career path. And IT technician speaks more to the help desk technician sort of work. Just kind of like an all-around jack of all trades, someone who knows how to help the layperson when they get stuck, right? Like things like that. So yeah, that covers some of the standout IT focused career paths, right? So let's move on to cybersecurity, because I felt like it was a natural next talking point after talking on IT. So cybersecurity is huge. You guys have no idea how much companies pay annually in ransom in order to get back from hackers access to their own systems, whether that's their own data or if they've been locked out of their own system and they can't do anything because now their entire workflow has been put online, right? Or put on the intranet, and they don't do things by paper anymore. So when a hacker gains access into a network and locks the company out of their own network, the revenue freezes up. The entire people can't do anything. You can't, what am I gonna do, right? You can't process any paperwork. You can't, whatever your business workflow is that generates revenue, you're locked out of it because a hacker hacked into your system because your system wasn't secure. So that speaks to the value of a cybersecurity engineer, a security operations engineer, a cyber analyst. Cyber analysts, they just audit your system and give you a report on vulnerabilities and weaknesses and things. And then you can hire a cybersecurity engineer, a SecOps engineer, to then remediate those vulnerabilities, right? That's huge, because if you're a company that, even if you only generate $1 billion a year in revenue annually, or $1 million a year in revenue annually, you'd rather pay 10% of that annually in perpetuity to a cyber company or hire your own cyber department, right? In order to secure your data so that you won't have to then be held hostage by a hacker for $500,000, right? So you're gonna pay either way. You're gonna pay a little bit or you're gonna pay a lot. So the value of cybersecurity professionals and what they bring to the tech ecosystem and the tech umbrella and all the companies that need these type of services is you can't put a number on it. And so that speaks to the job security I was talking about earlier, and just the perks, which is why they offer so many perks, because they don't have enough professionals to fill that gap. And they know how expensive it is to not have their cybersecurity handled properly, right? So let's move into core infrastructure. So your core and infrastructure, especially at large level enterprise level companies, so a GE or JB Hunt or DXC, there's a lot of tech products, right? And so all of those tech products, those little software, little apps, okay, we use this app to process this. We use this app for HR. We use this app for accounting, right? All of that has to be built on a core, which requires the proper design, and requires proper maintenance of that core, right? The infrastructure. So that's a company's infrastructure. So there are professionals who specialize just in that, right? Software architects, data analysts, right? They take into account all of the data that this corporation, this company, this small startup is going to be handling, and they design how they suggest how best to structure that data in a way where scalability and sustainability won't be a problem going forward. So those are your DevOps engineers. So when you think of DevOps, think of your cloud deployments and things like that, and all the configuration. And your software architects that not only design individual apps, but design how all those apps may communicate with each other, where they may be placed on the infrastructure, where they may plug in and share data, what data is appropriate to share, what data is inappropriate to share, and how to secure all of that, right? Those are your software architects and your core infrastructure architects and DevOps engineers and data analysts. Now coming into a little bit of my world, the software development focused career path or segment. And let me take a pause here just for a minute, for anybody to take a breath and just put any questions in the chat of the things that I've been saying, because I know I'm going kind of quickly. But we only have an hour, and I want to give time enough to answer all the questions. So go ahead and for the next maybe 30 seconds, put any questions if you want to know more about something. So I'll let you guys do that. Okay, so getting into the software development, this whole ecosystem, right? There are two main threads of kind of the software development life cycle, what we call the SDLC. One is waterfall, and one is agile or Scrum, right? Lean, Six Sigma, agile, Scrum, they're all, Kanban, all that is kind of interrelated. And then there's waterfall on the other end. Waterfall is a more archaic way of development. It is a way of saying, okay, we're going to do this big group of planning around this idea, the software project idea, and we're going to build everything all at once. And in about 6 months, a year and a half, we're going to push it out, right? All at once. And that's going to be it. And then that's version 1 of the software project. And then we'll do it all over again for new ideas. We'll gather new ideas and how we can improve on it, how we can grow on it. And then we'll spend about another 6 months, another year, updating it, fixing it, adding features, and then we'll push it out all at once to whether it's the general public or to whoever the users are, right? That has given way. There are government entities that still kind of use that, but that has given way to the agile, lean, Scrum methodology, right? Which is small, bite-sized, manageable pieces, right? Of course, the initial build, the MVP, what we call minimum viable product, will take a while to build and design it. But once we have a product out, how we incrementally improve upon it is going to be rapid. It's going to be quick, and it's going to be small bite sizes. And so it'll be CI, continuous improvement, CI/CD, continuous improvement, continuous development / deployment, right? So that whole world, right, in and of itself is a type of field, right, path within tech. But the actual builders are like myself, a software engineer or a software developer, or nicknamed as coders, whatever you want to call it. It's the same. We actually are fingers on keyboard writing the code, right? We build the software itself, right? So we write it in computer programming languages, which can be C or C++, C#, Java, JavaScript, Python, PHP. There's a lot of different computer programming languages, computer software languages, but they all mostly follow a consistent ideology, right? And that's called object-oriented programming. There's also another kind of programming called functional programming, FP versus OOP. Functional programming versus object-oriented programming. So once you get the pattern recognition, once you skill up and you're a competent software developer and you understand the pattern recognition, you can switch languages. right? It's kind of like when you learn your second language, whether it's your speaking language, right? Then you can start to recognize the patterns of the syntax and semantics of that language. And that's why you see people who can speak 4, 5, 6 languages, because once they got past that first one and got into being bilingual, it became easier for them to then adapt their minds to, okay, well, I speak English, that's my first language. I learned French, I can learn Spanish, I can learn Italian, I can learn German, right? Especially if they're interrelated, right? So French, Spanish, they're interrelated. We have a similar thing with coding languages, right? So, C, C++, C Sharp, Java, C, C++, Java, C Sharp, JavaScript, TypeScript, things like that. CSS, SCSS, those things were kind of built on top of each other. So you start to recognize similar patterns. So like at this point, I'm code agnostic, language agnostic. It doesn't really matter what the language is, I can code it. But that's, I'm partial to that. So I like to say we're the top dogs because, if you can't build a software product, then what do you have to secure, or what are you trying to configure a core infrastructure for, right? So yeah, a cybersecurity engineer would probably dispute that, but hey, that's a fun debate to have. Also, there's something called a UI/UX developer. UI/UX developers, UI/UX stands for user interface, user experience. All they do, and I don't want to say all they do, but what they do, their value add is they survey users and they specifically develop a skill set and a knack for ease of use. Ease of use. How do I design this thing to make it attractive? How do I make it look attractive? How do I make the flow of it, the way, where I put things like buttons, or how do I make it, just attractive? Because we want people to engage. We want people to not only engage and visit, whether it's the website or use the mobile app or use the software. We want them to feel good about using it. And we want the experience that they have using it to be a positive one. We want the interface to be friendly. And so maybe a decade or so, I think it was more than a decade now, Apple introduced user-friendly, right? They started marketing their things as intuitive and user-friendly. You don't need to watch a tutorial. You don't need to look at the pamphlet or the instructions. It's intuitive. As soon as you open up a Mac, it's intuitive. You'll figure it out, because we've designed the user experience to be seamless, to be user-friendly, right? And I'm sure we've all been to websites and downloaded mobile apps or whatever, where it wasn't, right? And it turned you off to the experience. You don't like it. It's clunky, it's buggy. And so, or it doesn't look, the colors are harsh, the brightness is harsh, it's not appealing to the eye, things like that. Or it's dull and dark, you can't make out things. The syntax, the font is hazy, right? So the UI/UX developers, they have a knack for that, and they get paid handsomely just for that. But again, you wouldn't know that type of career exists, right? Outside of the tech umbrella, you wouldn't have known that that's an actual thing, right? Next is QA analysts and QA engineers. QA engineers, developers hate QA engineers. Their job is to try to break what you just built. And they have a knack for creativity and not following the instructions on purpose, because they want to see if there's a way they can break it. They want to, and that's called app hardening. They want to harden the app. And so in order to harden it, they have to expose vulnerabilities, right? So that's all QA analysts. They just test it. They're testers. So a lot of times you see the job listed as QA tester or QA analyst or QA engineer, and QA is just quality assurance. You might see QC, like quality control analyst, quality control engineer, right? And that's its own career path, right? And yeah, they get trained and learn about their own specific software tools in order to be good at that job, right? QA analysts. They understand what the app is supposed to do, and then they just try to figure out a whole bunch of creative, thoughtful ways to break it. And then they write reports saying, oh, I figured out how to break it. Now you guys got to fix what I just broke, or what I just exposed could be broke, right? Could be exploited. And that's all they do. And it's once again, it's all the same perks, everything. And I just learned last night at our Operation Spark alum event about developer advocate slash evangelist, because one of our fellow alum is one of those at Twilio. I'd seen it pop up as a job title, but I didn't know exactly what it was. So developer evangelist slash advocate so developers kind of interface with the business folk and they give us requirements and we build them. Developer advocates act as a little bit of a buffer to push back against the business and say, okay, well, you want our guys to build this. It's going to take a little while. Give us more time or something along the lines of that, or give us more money and we can do it as fast as you want us to do it, right? We need more resources. But they also have a lot of freedom to evangelize to the community, and they get a budget for this from the company to evangelize to the community and to other tech peers about the company, right? So they get a budget in addition to their salary, they get a budget and they'll get bonuses for how well they do in just getting the community to adopt whatever the product of the company or products of the company are. And that community can be schools. They have budgets for schools, projects, coding boot camps, church, all manner of, when I say the community, government, all that, right? So, you know, I could be a developer evangelist for Dutchy and I can go to the government, Louisiana state government, and say, hey, we have this product. We know you guys have, what is it? Medical marijuana is legal here in the state of Louisiana. There's only a few dispensaries that are allowed to sell the product to whatever patient has the prescription. How about you use our product for your transactions, right? And, you know, for that, like that's the job. That's a part of the job. And so that's just, it's amazing that that exists as a thing, specifically in tech, and has all the perks that everyone else gets, right, in the tech umbrella. So I'll stop talking about software development focus fields because I could talk about that all day. So let's move to product and project management. When I was speaking earlier about the Scrum / Agile methodology of software development, and I was talking about the product folks, these are your quote unquote product folks, right? They call them many things: technical product / project managers, Scrum masters. I've seen Agilist, Agile transformer, product owner, project owner. Those are all project management titles that fall under this kind of in this segment, right? And what they do, one of the things, as I said before, they push back on unreasonable expectations from the business folk. They kind of protect the devs in that way, or represent for the devs. And they also have a great ability to interpret, right? One of the things that you get a lot is that you get business people who have tech ideas, but they don't necessarily know how to communicate them in a tech way to tech people. And then on the other side, you get tech people who don't know how to interpret very well what the businesses are asking, the business people are asking for as far as requirements for the software products and projects. And then you get tech people who don't know how to communicate the challenge as well. They know the challenges. It's like, okay, you've told me you want me to build something. These are red flags or things that we need to watch out for that I need to communicate to you. But it's literally like speaking two different languages. And so you have meeting on top of meeting, on top of meeting, on top of meeting, trying to get everybody on the same page. And so technical project managers and Scrum masters and agile transformers, they are really good at being that translator, the go-between, right? Many TPMs is what we call them, Scrum masters. They have a little bit of a background on the coding side, enough to be able to speak that language, as well as on the business side, enough to be able to speak that language and translate, right? And so they are the project managers, right? So they handle the what we call user stories, when you break down a large set of features into assignable tasks. They handle, I mean, it's a lot. They handle a lot. Having a good project manager on your team will, or having a bad one, will make or break your whole daily workflow experience. It really will. They are invaluable. And that's something I didn't learn until I got on a team where we didn't have a great, we had a great project manager, but he was spread way too thin. He was being shared across 5 teams. So he was overworked and burnt out. And so a lot of things fell by the wayside, and it made working on the project bad. Like the progress slowed to a halt. So if you're the type of person who are really good at organization and really good at multitasking and managing skills and a little bit of a people manager, that could be something that you would excel at. Yeah, and you don't have to be a mathematician level, scientist level, coding level, genius type of person. It speaks specifically to your skill set, right? So, and that's something that I wanted to focus on and hone in on. There are people think that, oh, you got to be some type of coding genius geek, like the Matrix with the zeros and ones coming down the screen. No, the tech career path is so wide. Like, I mean, think about it. Tech companies need accountants, they need HR, and all of those people get paid according to what's not expected for accountants, but what's expected in the tech field, right? So you can't beat it in that regard. So let me move to hardware, right? So computer hardware engineers, as I said before, I would tinker around and replace the motherboard when the motherboard burnt out on my desktop back in the day that I had running my music studio software equipment. Yeah, computer hardware engineers, you know, if you ever looked at a motherboard, all the little soldered things, all the little tiny pieces, all the computer microchips and all that, someone's putting that together, and all of it isn't automated. Some cases it's a person with a magnifying glass and a little tiny soldering iron, putting it together, right? In order to then because the hardware supports the software. You can't have software without the proper hardware, right? And now with the cell phones, with the cell phone cameras and the computer chips. So Foxconn is an Asian company that has the contract to build iPhones, right? And that's computer hardware. And they have it like an assembly line. And they like actually manufacture the pieces, and their employees put them together, right? And they manufacture and put the pieces together. That's what computer hardware is. So from wiring and all that. So you have to have a little bit of an electrical engineering background. You don't have to be an electrical engineer, but you have to have a little bit of that knowledge and understanding in order to be a computer hardware engineer. And that's like one of the throwback mainstay computer career paths that have been around since the beginning of computers, right? And lastly, cloud architects. Everything is cloud now, right? Like there's something called serverless, where you run software that's not on what's known as a traditional server. Everything is cloud. So I listed cloud architect as one, because a cloud architect may be different from a software architect, because you're designing, whether it's the infrastructure, cybersecurity, you're designing all of these different things in the cloud, to live in the cloud. And the cloud is just virtual storage space. And there are many cloud services out there, whether it's Amazon, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, Microsoft's Azure, Oracle. Oracle is one of the oldest cloud services. CrowdStrike, Snowflake, it's a ton of them. Okta, Snowflake, it's a ton of them out there, and they all offer some level of similar service. But cloud is huge and it's growing, and they don't have enough people who know it, and so yeah, they get compensated very well. So these are just some. Oh my God, it's been 15 minutes already. These are just some of the career paths. Some of the standouts and some of the ones that are really in dire need of, at the very least, entry-level professionals or associate-level professionals to fill the gap. And literally, it's wide open. So I highlighted some of the most popular or well-known credentials and certifications needed to kind of get a foot in the door, right? So CompTIA is an organization that has a huge whole host of certifications, some of which are Network Plus, A Plus, Security Plus, and Network Plus, of course, is your like beginning level IT or network technician, network administrator certifications. These certs are, and I have here, if you see the second to the last, undergrad and grad degrees, and I have linked the Delgado Workforce IT program, because Delgado has this workforce IT program where they'll train you in a host of, in most of these that I have listed here, certification paths and career paths. So that's the value, and that's the value of the Delgado Workforce IT program. But I actually listed some of the certs that their training will prepare you for. And I want to actually, later on, I'll ask Aaron and Kelvin for clarification. Does the exam, is the exam for these certifications a part of the Delgado Workforce IT programs, right? So that's something, if you guys hear me, you can unmute and answer, clarify at the very least.
Yes, it is, and it is part of the curriculum.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, so because I asked that, because there are some programs out there where it's like, we'll train you for it, but then you got to go sign up for it and you're on your own, right? But if it's built in as a part of the curriculum, that's awesome. Yeah, that's really good. Kudos to you guys for designing it that way. That separates you all from the rest of these training programs out here. And you know, so CompTIA is, and I have the links here. I think we're going to, I think we have you all's emails. We'll email you this PowerPoint itself, or at least this particular slide with these links. And ISC Squared is another organization, and they focus more on security. So CISSP is like the industry standard certification for, in order to break into the cybersecurity field. CCSP is cloud security. And that speaks to my point earlier about cloud kind of being its own thing and its own career path. There's a specific knowledge base that you need to have separate from the standard cybersecurity knowledge base in order to break into things like, in order to break into the cloud field. And they pay well. And man, I get these DMs in my LinkedIn and I just read them and I'm like, well, man, this is, I'm already walking down the path I'm on, but hey, so-and-so, come look at this. If you're interested, please, like, these people are begging. They're begging to give you a six-figure career because they just need they need the manpower. They need the labor. They need the talent. So, yeah, and so I put in your actual cloud certifications. I put the three most popular: AWS, Azure, and GCP. But GCP is Google Cloud Platform. As I said before, there's plenty others, and you can get certified in the whole ecosystem of products that they offer, and the product is provided to offer a particular service. And so you have to learn your way around that service, right? So AWS has things like, I think, Cloud Architect. They have things like Cloud Practitioner, Cloud Developer, different types of, these are the names of different type of cloud certifications. And Azure has similar, and so does GCP. And they're awesome. Like, once you learn, like I said, the concepts behind them, then you can flow seamlessly. They may call it a little different, have a different name, but it's the same service being provided, or extremely similar service being provided. State sanctioned industry-based certificates. So as in Operation Spark, the certificate that I got, the credential that I got that we get from Operation Spark, is officially sanctioned by the state of Louisiana, the state of California, and I think they're working on the state of Georgia right now as a part of their expansion to the state of Georgia. That's one way, and I linked there the Louisiana industry-based certificates link. So you can kind of, and the industry-based certificates can be in any industry, but there's a couple specifically for tech. And so that's one way, and other states have similar programs, similar things, right? And that's one way to skill up and say, okay, I have a credential that I can list on my resume, list on my LinkedIn, that proves that I'm entry-level ready in something, in this, right? And then, of course, you have your undergrad and grad degrees, whether it's this wonderful Delgado Workforce IT program, or the more old school traditional route, computer science, computer information systems, masters in computer science, master in information system, things of that route. And lastly, you have your Scrum Agile certifications, right? CSM is, I think, I don't know the actual, it's Scrum Master certification. They're like the organization that kind of governs that. SAFE is another one for, I think, product and project management, and then PMP as well. Or SAFE might be for Agile specifically, and PMP is for project management. They're all similar in the way that they all come from the same or a similar set of ideas, right? Ideating in small incremental steps and a certain management methodology, project management methodology. So these are some links to get you started. I encourage you all to do your research. Reach out to the good folks over at Delgado Workforce IT. Reach out to me. I'll give you all my email before this is up, and I'll guide you, because that's one of the things that I'm passionate about, exposing all of these opportunities, this wealth of opportunities in the tech umbrella to people, you know, like me, people from where I'm from, like average everyday people who are mailmen right now, right? People who are blue collar right now, people who are unemployed, young, old, high school. Operation Spark has a robust high school program where these kids are graduating high school at the same time they're graduating with the industry-based certificate. So they're literally like, oh, do I take this $75,000 job offer, or do I go experience the traditional college, you know? And so that's a great problem to have, right? At 17, 18, 19 years old, think about that. So that's something that I'm passionate about, like just getting the word out, because I think if more of us knew, then more of us would at least kind of, it would pique our interest enough to be curious and inquisitive, right? Because so many of us, we sell ourselves these narratives, right? Because we don't have anybody setting us straight about what's really going on. So we sell ourselves these narratives, and many times those narratives feed into our doubts and fears, right? And we never really pursue a thing, right? So that's something I've been trying, like my individual mission to, like, you know, if you're not gonna pursue something, don't let it be because you sold yourself a narrative, right? That wasn't based in fact. So I like to give people the facts, give my people the facts for sure. Yeah, and I think I have a training. So, you know, those are the certifications, and there's some training that comes with those certifications, but these are some really good training resources, and there's a ton of them. Cloud Academy is one, and it's free online, just training, self-guided. You can pay to have more regimented curriculum guidance. But at the top of this list, of course, is Delgado's Workforce IT program. That's why we are here. They must be doing something right if they do these Tech Talk Thursdays, and indeed they are. I've kind of vetted them and checked them out for sure. So that's one, and of course, Operation Spark is specifically focused for software engineering. It's an advanced software engineering immersion program, and the adult program, it gets intense. It's not for everybody. It gets intense. You live, eat, sleep, breathe code. I remember when I was going through the immersive program, my mom told me, she was like, I knew you were serious about it when you didn't come get any gumbo for Thanksgiving, all right? And it's like, she knows I would have been there in any other situation, but yeah, I missed Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's that year. I missed everything because I was coding. But you're cramming years of skills building into a matter of months. So it requires that out of you. But I had to take a leave of absence from the Postal Service to complete the program. I didn't have any revenue. I told myself maybe I would be able to Uber a few hours after class every night, but you're so drained and you still have a lot of work to catch up on. So even though you're not in class, you still got to do some coding, a lot. So that it's great to have alternative programs like other programs and other offerings like the Delgado Workforce IT program. And they partner with Generation USA, which is an online coding bootcamp specifically for junior web developer training. It's great to have that wealth of options, right? So, because, you know, what if I wouldn't have had, you know, I had my parents, I had a robust Thankfully enough, I'm grateful for it. I had a robust community who were themselves financially set enough to be able to help me out for a few months, right? Everybody doesn't have that, right? And so that's something we've been pushing Operation Spark into kind of expanding on. But in the meantime and in between time, a opportunity like Delgado's Workforce IT program partnered with Generation USA for those who are specifically looking to learn how to code and go that specific career path has popped up, has cropped up. And that just, you know, that's great for the city. That's great for the citizens. That's great for our people. And so I gotta give kudos to both these programs, right? And just blow the bullhorn, sound the bullhorn on that. But cloudacademy.com is one, codeacademy.com is another. If you're interested in coding, if you're interested in cybersecurity, you can go to the link on the ISC2 link, and there's training links, a whole robust list of training links that they recommend. Many of them are free, or at least free to get started. Because a lot of this, and I want to say that a lot of this is autodidactic. A lot of it's self-driven, right? You have to have the drive to want to gain, like I said, at least the associate level competency, at least the entry level competency. And so you got to kind of, you know, have enough wherewithal to surround yourself with a supportive system. So when you're not feeling motivated, it can kind of kick you a little bit and motivate you to get back on the horse, because it's a completely different paradigm from your normal traditional learning skills, where it's a teacher up there and a lecturer, and then you take the test, multiple choice, and it's easy. This is not easy, right? But it's more than worth it. It's more than worth it. It was, yeah. So yeah, thank you guys. I'm gonna put my email in the chat, and you guys can reach out to me with any questions. Yeah, so I think we got to go to the questions now.
Yeah, so we had a couple questions in the chat. One of the questions was, and I'll start from the bottom, work my way up, is if our RBCs are transferable to our academic side, which is our IT programs for associates program, and yes, they are. So we do have that bridge where our courses that, and most of them, I'll say 95% of them do bridge over to credit hours for if someone wants to continue for a degree. Another question is, I won't embarrass Michelle Jackson with her question regarding where she is in her transferring into the technology field. Many people may not know what Tetra is, or so we will bypass that question and go on to the next. And so I think that's it. Erin put her email address in the chat along with our website, and Eddie is going to put his information in there as well. Let's give it up for Eddie for the information that he shared. He kind of scared me at first when he said he won a couple of hackathons, and also he broke into the technology field. Those two words just shouldn't be used together many times. So, but again, he gave us many nuggets today, and thanks for sharing your pathway of how you got into tech and the opportunities that you have. And so you talked about what worked for you, right? And then you talked about the supply and demand, the perks of the industry, from work-life balance to compensation, career pathways to paid training. And you have to keep in mind, if you have done your due diligence, you go through this training, you can write your own ticket, like Eddie mentioned. It's very competitive out there because there's not enough individuals in the workforce to meet the demand, and demand is constantly changing. And so, the more you can.
And if I can interject to that point.
Sure.
So I was told by a Google HR, it's actually not competitive, it's selective, meaning they have as much budget and availability as they can find competent, but they won't lower the bar in order to fill the spot because they know that's gonna hurt them on the back end. So it's selective in the sense that you have to meet the bar of competency, but you're not. If you walk, I mean, back in the day, you go into a place and you're there to interview and it might be 20 other people and you're like, oh, there may only be 4 or 5 spots. I'm competing with these folks. You're competing against the information. That's what you're competing against. Because there's enough in tech and not just at Google to hire whoever is in the proverbial lobby that's competent. And I mean, that's just, and that blew my mind, right? And that's, as I said, that gap has grown. So, you get the skills and you'll be all right, and you can literally write your own ticket for real, for real. And to the point of, are they transferable? At Michelle's event, at the Tech to Talent event, Tulane University was there, and the guy came over to me after hearing me talk a bit, and he was like, "Hey man," and I get LinkedIn DM offers as well. We'll give you, 6-9 credit hours to our master's program, like to get us, like come enroll. So yes, though, to answer that question, the IBCs are transferable undergrad and in some cases even grad school. So, that's just, that's the reality of it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so again, Eddie, we appreciate the information that you shared with us today. Hopefully it was beneficial and useful for many people today that are looking to venture into this rewarding career path. I put into the chat Aaron's email address along with our website. All of our courses that we do offer do lead to IBCs, industry-based certifications. And we do offer Scrum Master through Safe Scrum Agile as well. Awesome. And so if you have an interest in that, the instructor for that teaches it on an international level. So he does it for many major companies on an international level as well. So if there's interest, please reach out to us on there. We will have another tech talk regarding Agile Scrum Master, and we'll make sure that you guys receive the information also. All right, if there's no other questions, let me check the chat here. So again, disrespect to everyone's time. We appreciate you and look forward to seeing you on some of our future tech talks that we're going to have on Thursdays. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Aaron, and also I will put my email address on here as well. That way you can reach me if you have any questions. All right, if there's no more other questions for anyone else, again, I appreciate you guys taking time out your schedule to spend with. And one thing before I go, Eddie did mention Generation USA. Delgado has a partnership with Generation USA. And so these classes are free of charge. And so your cost is your time. They are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So there's a commitment of time and effort for those, but they're free. We offer junior web developer, digital marketing analyst, and IT support specialist. And again, these are free of charge through our partnership with Generation USA. And we run those cohorts throughout the year. And so if you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to us and we can direct you to that information. But again, these are free of charge. There's no cost for that. So if there's any questions on that, make sure you reach out to us. If there's no other questions, again, thank you, Eddie, for your time. I appreciate it. It's been a wealth of knowledge. I love the nuggets that you gave to us today, and I'll look forward to it next time, okay?
For sure, most definitely. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, everyone. All right, have a good one. All right.
We are good. All right, Aaron. All right, Kelvin. Thank you guys, man. That was great.
Thank you, man. It's been good. So we're gonna have to have you on again. Aaron had to take off. She had to go pick up her kids.
Okay.
But again, we'd love to have you on again. Wealth of information for us and a lot to share. And it's hard to
it's hard to
that
compress
into 1 hour.
Yeah.
So definitely we're gonna reach back out to you and have you on again and kind of drill down to maybe one topic about that you want to talk about.
Okay.
And then we can maximize that time as opposed to a broader conversation.
Right. That works, man. You guys are doing great stuff. I like that. I didn't know that was free. The Generation USA. That's powerful, man.
Yeah, it's free. Have you taken Scrum Master?
No, I haven't taken the Scrum Master certifications. I still want to code, brother. I'll be honest. I still want to code. Yeah. But,
I'll do this, and I respect that and appreciate that. If you want to take it, I'll offer it to you for free. You know, we offer it. We do a Monday through Thursday for 3 hours, 3.5 hours, Monday through Thursday. And you know, the certification is included as well. So again, if that's something you would like to take, you know, it doesn't hurt. You know, it's no cost other than your time. But let's connect and let's get together and chop it up and see how we can collaborate some more on some things.
For sure, most definitely. All right. I'm gonna pull your email from this chat and I'll send you one.
I'm gonna send you my my cell phone number. That way you have it. I'll give you my personal cell. That way I know I answer that. The work cell, once I leave, that's a wrap.
I understand. Okay, let me put it on in here. All right, cool. That works.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
No problem, and I'll hit you up.
And then, if you know, like I say, Michelle can reach me at all times as well. You know.
Okay.
We talk on a regular basis. She does, like, you know, all our marketing for us. So.
Okay. Yeah. She's great at that, man. That's her thing. She can get the word out. She can figure out a creative way to sell something or kind of just to present it. Yeah, that's definitely needed. And I'm about to text you my contact info. Let me see here. Let's see. Share content. Okay. Yeah, I just shared my contact card with you.
Appreciate it.
All right, brother.
All right. Thanks again, man.
All right. Thank you all.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.